My name is Andrew and this is Rogue Wrenching. Well, actually, this is a 1988 AMC General Humvee, Hummer, I don't know what this thing is, but it's kind of cool. And the reason it's in my shop is because if you're familiar at all with these old 6.2 Detroit diesel engines that these things come equipped with, they have these vertical bolts that go straight up into the starter. And this customer had a bolt break, one of the long starter bolts snapped off right about there at the bottom of the thread. Now, that's a bad day, right? Like, that's not a good day to begin with at all. And their day got a lot worse when an extractor broke off in that bolt when they were trying to get it out. So that is how the vehicle got towed to my shop. Now, I want to show you guys this real quick because this is what victory looks like. This is the extractor that finally took out the bolt after we did a bunch of drilling, and like, this was ridiculous. It took 4.5 hours to get this stupid little thing out. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the kind of special tools that are required for this type of an extraction. Vehicles like this, super cool. I think tools that can fix these vehicles are even cooler. So I have a bunch of tools in my arsenal for extracting broken bolts. And what's interesting about this particular extraction is this tool that I used is a Mac Tools screw extractor. And I've owned this tool for probably 7 or 8 years at this point, and I have never successfully extracted a bolt with it until yesterday when I got the bolts out of this one. One of the keys to extracting bolts is different options and trying different things that will work. And sometimes you'll have an easy out, like the snap-on set that I have here. Now, this set is great, but I will be honest with you, in the last 4 or 5 years of doing this professionally and doing a lot more bolt extractions, like when I first started in my career, didn't do a lot of bolt extractions. As I've gotten to do them more, as I've kind of moved up in the seniority as a technician, I do a lot more bolt extractions now. A newer tech breaks something off, usually I'll step in and extract it. That way less damage gets done to the surrounding material or whatever it's installed in. And these snap-on extractors, this is what we would traditionally call an easy out. So these don't really work that well. Like, I've had a lot of extractions in my time, and I don't have a lot of luck with those easy outs actually functioning. Now, there are some things, obviously, when you're using an easy out, the first most important thing is you want to drill all the way through the bolt. That way it relieves some of the tension off of the threads. So those didn't work in this case because we weren't able to drill all the way through the bolt because we had a broken extractor in the middle of the bolt. The most important thing when extracting a bolt is to drill the absolute dead center of the bolt. Now, there's a number of techniques with which to achieve that. One of those is a spring-loaded center punch like this one that I have here. And really, it's about being careful and methodical and thinking about how you're going to go about the extraction. Because if you screw up, if a drill bit breaks off in the hole, if an extractor breaks off in the hole, your job just got 10 times more difficult. The reason it's so difficult is because extractors and drill bits are super hard steel. And so you'll end up with, if you break a drill bit off and you try to drill it out with another drill bit, it will either not drill or it'll break the second drill bit because it'll catch a lip of it and it'll just break. They're very brittle. So you really want to avoid making the problem worse. A broken bolt's already a bad day. So when you approach a broken bolt, kind of my approach is, the question is, how did this bolt break? If it broke because it was cross-threaded and just torqued until it snapped, chances are you're going to have to drill that all the way out, drill all the threads out, drill out the threads of the surrounding hole, install a time cert or a helicoil or something like that to repair the threads or tap to a bigger size hole. There's no extracting that bolt. But a lot of times when a bolt breaks, like in an exhaust manifold on a Cummins or on a LS Chevy, the bolt is broken not because it was so tight and the friction on the threads was so great that the bolt snapped, but because of the thermal cycling of the bolt, stretched the bolt until the bolt head broke off. In some of these cases, you'll have a stub you can grab onto, but I've had multiple cases with Cummins head bolts specifically on both the 5.9s and the 6.7s, where you will take a impact tool and I'll go to zip a bolt out and the bolt breaks coming out. So it'll turn 2 turns and then snap off. So it turns and then it stops. That's usually a worst case scenario, but on a lot of these Cummins exhaust manifold bolts, once you get the manifold out and out of your way, you can take a pick and just walk that bolt out. And it's because the manifold warped over time and applied a side load to the bolt, which caused it to break. So you have to evaluate how the bolt broke before you start attempting to extract, because it's going to kind of define which approach you're going to take. So drilling a hole in the center of it is almost always a good first step. Depending on the material it's in, if you have a steel bolt in an aluminum hole, sometimes you can weld a nut to it and that heat will help to break the threads loose, and then to take a wrench and thread it out. That technique does not always work, as I learned when I was extracting an exhaust manifold bolt on a Ford 6.4 Power Stroke. I burned through about 40 nuts before I gave up on that trick because I really wanted it to work and it just didn't. So there's not always a single solution that works. There are techniques and tricks that you will learn over time as you do this more often that will make you faster at extracting bolts. But at the end of the day, if you break an extractor, if you break a drill bit, it is going to cost more money, it is going to take more time, it's going to require more specialized tooling to be able to extract that bolt. So if you're in a situation with a broken bolt and you're watching this video trying to figure out what my secret is to getting out that bolt, the answer is a lot of patience and frankly a lot of burnt up and damaged tools. So I burnt up, I think I burnt up, broke, or destroyed 8 drill bits extracting that screw. So there's no easy answer. There's no silver bullet most of the time. It's just a lot of time and practice and experience to figure out what the best approach is for your application. I've had success with easy outs. I've had success with Torx bits, and you take an air hammer and you air hammer a Torx bit into a hole and it bites it enough to pull it out. I've done a lot of different things that can get really creative as far as extracting screws, but at the end of the day, extracting broken screws and broken bolts is some of the most difficult work that you can do on really anything, because most of the time it's in the worst possible location. There's not room to get in a drill and stuff like that. So like I have a right angle drill. I've got multiple different drills. I've got different drill bits, short stubbies, longer ones. There's a lot of different tools in my arsenal as a professional to extract broken bolts when those bolts do inevitably break, and sometimes there's nothing you can do about it. So to kind of summarize and wrap this video up and tie it all up, I know we've kind of been going about 16 different directions here. The big thing is bolt extraction is an art more than a science. And the only way you can really learn that art is to practice, 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 and have multiple different tools as options in your toolkit. So I've got a number of different extractor types. There's different people in my shop that have other kinds of extractors. Some extractors work sometimes, they don't other times. There's not, in my opinion, one perfect extractor that works all the time with all things. If you break a bolt off, a lot of times taking it to a professional is the best course of action. With that being said, even professionals, I can't always fix it. I can't always save it. So with this bolt that we extracted out of the Hummer behind me, when I initially looked at it, there was a large diameter hole that had been drilled, and you could not tell where the block stopped and the bolt started, if that makes sense. So if this is the circle that we're trying to drill in, and it looks like this is the middle, the extractor was over here to the side. And so I attempted to drill what appeared to be the center, which, as you can tell by looking at this bolt here, ended up taking out some of the threads. So there is some damage to this block. It's not perfect. We are going to put in a time insert, which is a one-piece steel insert that will hold that and make up for some of that loss in strength. But even when we succeed, and I would definitely consider this to be success, because at this point, the starter is bolted in and it's holding with all the bolts that are supposed to hold it in, and that's success. But success doesn't necessarily mean no damage or no further damage. Sometimes we can't get them out. Sometimes the damage is so extensive that it doesn't make sense to extract. In this case, the only other option is replace the engine block. So we're gonna spend a lot of money trying to extract before we, replace an engine for a broken bolt. But you can't always win. Professionals can't always win. So if you're stuck with a difficult broken screw or bolt or something like that, take it to a professional. Let them take a look at it. Don't break off drills and extractors, because even a cheap drill bit broken off in a hole makes it just an absolute nightmare to extract. So I know we've had a lot of time here talking about extractions. If you guys are still with me, I really appreciate you sticking around to the end. I would ask that you do give this video a thumbs up so that it can spread to more people. And that's where we're going to wrap this one up for tonight. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video and you want to see more content, not about these because I don't actually own one of these or do anything cool with these, I just work on whatever comes through the door. But if you want to see more content talking about tools and things from a professional automotive technician's point of view, definitely make sure you hit that subscribe button below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take sh I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.